The gray autumn sky hung low over the Pocono Mountains, heavy as if it carried every sorrow in the world. Anna Carter stood among rows of weathered gravestones, her boots sinking into damp earth. Before her lay the polished granite marker that bore the names of her husband Mark and their little girl Lily. Fresh flowers drooped in the vase, their petals bruised by rain. Anna crouched slowly, brushing away leaves with trembling fingers. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow, the eyes of someone who had stared into loss too long. 3 years had passed, yet the memory of that night clung to her like a chain she could not break. She remembered the crash as if it had happened yesterday. A truck had barreled through an intersection, its driver drunk, its brakes useless. Mark and Lily were on their way home from the grocery store, their laughter spilling into the car phone just moments before. Anna had been delayed by a late shift at the precinct. She was one step behind. Just one step. She remembered the twisted wreck, the flashing sirens, the paramedics who grew silent when they saw her. And the worst of it, the man responsible walked out of court free. A suspended sentence bought with money and favors. That was the day Anna, once a respected investigator with the county sheriff's office, stopped believing in justice. She turned in her badge within the week. Now she crouched at the grave, whispering words only the wind would hear. "I'm sorry. I should have been there." Her voice cracked and the wind carried her guilt away. She traced their names carved into the granite as if memorizing them again and again. Then she stood, shoulders slumped, hands stuffed into the pockets of her worn jacket. The cemetery was silent, except for a few crows perched on the fence. Their cries followed her as she walked down the gravel path, each step heavier than the last. By the time she reached her truck, her chest felt tight, her breath shallow as if the weight of grief would crush her. She drove without destination, the mountain roads winding like her thoughts. Home was just a cabin filled with silence. Home was a fridge with nothing but beer and leftovers. Home was a chair by the window where she sat for hours, staring at nothing. Tonight that silence felt unbearable. Her hands gripped the steering wheel harder as the truck rumbled onto the old steel bridge crossing the Delaware River. She stopped at the shoulder and stepped out. The night air bit at her skin. Below, the river churned, dark, fast, relentless. Anna walked to the center of the bridge, her boots echoing on the metal. She leaned over the railing, staring into the black water. Her fingers tightened on the railing. "One step," she whispered, "and it's over." The wind pressed against her ears, carrying the smell of wet pine and moss. She closed her eyes, listening to the river's roar and the hollow beat of her heart. Then a memory struck. Lily's giggle, sharp and clear, the sound of a child running through the yard shouting, "Mommy, I can fly higher than the clouds." Anna gasped, her breath shuddering into sobs. She pulled back, pressing her palms to her face. Not tonight. Not yet. She stumbled back to the truck, trembling, the roar of the river echoing in her mind. Somewhere deep inside, a stubborn ember of survival flickered. For Anna Carter, the night on the bridge was not the end, but only the beginning of a story she never thought she would live. The storm clouds deepened as Anna sat in her truck, her hands gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. She didn't start the engine. She just sat there staring at the black river below. "What am I even holding on to?" she whispered to the empty cab. The silence answered back, pressing against her chest. For 3 years she had carried grief like a stone in her pocket, never setting it down, never letting it go. Finally, with a ragged sigh, she turned the key. The old truck coughed, headlights sweeping across the narrow road. She drove, not toward home but away from it. Away from the silence of the cabin that had become a prison. The road twisted through the Pocono forest, wet from the earlier rain. The smell of pine clung to the cool air seeping through the cracked window. Anna didn't know why she drove deeper into the night, only that stopping meant facing herself again. Then she saw it. At first she thought it was storm debris, maybe a fallen branch. But as her headlights cut through the shadows, her breath caught. A body. A young woman lay at the edge of the embankment, half hidden by brush. Beside her sat a large dog, its eyes glowing in the light, its body rigid with protectiveness. Anna pulled to the side of the road, her heart thudding. She stepped out cautiously, the cold air rushing into her lungs. "Easy there, boy," she murmured, raising her hands as she moved closer. The dog growled, its tail stiff, but it didn't lunge. It only stayed close to the girl, its body forming a shield. Anna crouched a few feet away, her voice steady but gentle. I'm not here to hurt her. I want to help. The girl's pale face glistened in the headlights. Her clothes were torn, her shoes muddy, her breathing shallow. Anna touched her wrist carefully. There was a pulse, weak but there. Anna glanced around the lonely road. Out here, no ambulance would arrive quickly. She couldn't lift the woman alone, not with the dog guarding her every move. Just then, headlights appeared from around the curve. A delivery truck rattled to a stop. The driver rolled down his window, suspicion sharp in his eyes. What's going on? He called. She's alive, Anna explained quickly. Unconscious. I need help getting her somewhere safe. The man hesitated but climbed out. Together, with cautious movements and whispered reassurances to the dog, they lifted the young woman into the back seat of Anna's truck. The dog hesitated, growling low, but then leapt in after her, curling protectively by her side. Anna pressed a crumpled bill into the driver's hand. Thank you, she said simply. He nodded, muttered something about crazy things you see out here, and drove off into the night. Anna stood by her truck for a moment, staring at the fragile figure in the back seat. The dog's eyes glowed with warning and loyalty. All right, Anna whispered, sliding behind the wheel. We'll get you home. But home wasn't really home. It was a silent cabin filled with ghosts. Tonight, though, it would have to be a refuge for two strangers. The cabin creaked as Anna carried the unconscious girl inside. The space had been empty for so long, it startled her how loud every sound felt now. She laid the girl carefully on the worn sofa and covered her with a wool blanket. The dog, Max, she would later learn, never left her side. His eyes followed every move Anna made. She poured a bowl of water, set it near him, then rummaged through the pantry for anything edible. Only a half-empty bag of kibble sat on the shelf. She placed it down. Max devoured it like he hadn't eaten in days. Anna almost smiled. It had been years since she'd seen such devotion. Later, she found an old towel and knelt beside Max. You need this more than I do, she murmured, rubbing the mud from his thick coat. The dog stiffened, then slowly relaxed beneath her touch. Good boy, she whispered. When she turned back to the girl, she stirred faintly, lips parting as though caught in a dream. Her breathing remained shallow but steady. Anna placed a glass of water within reach before settling into her chair by the window. She didn't sleep. For the first time in years, she stayed awake not because of grief but because of something else. Responsibility. At dawn, the forest outside was wrapped in mist. Pale light spilled through the cabin window as the girl stirred again. The creak of sofa springs broke the silence. She blinked, disoriented, her gaze darting around the unfamiliar room until it landed on Anna. Anna stood slowly, careful not to startle her. You're safe, she said softly. You passed out by the road. I brought you here. The girl's lips trembled. Where am I? My cabin. Just outside Stroudsburg. You've been out all night, Anna explained. You should drink some water. The dog pressed close to the girl's side as she sat up, trembling. She accepted the glass with both hands, sipping slowly before setting it down. Her eyes, wide and uncertain, met Anna's. Thank you, she whispered, her voice hesitant as if unused to kindness. She hesitated, then added, My name is Sarah. Anna nodded once. Anna Carter. Silence stretched between them, fragile but steady, until Max broke it with a soft bark. Sarah stroked his head, her lips curving into the faintest, most uncertain smile. Something shifted in that moment. Anna realized the night on the bridge hadn't been her last. For the first hour after waking, Sarah barely spoke. She sat on the sofa, clutching the blanket as though afraid it might disappear. Anna moved quietly around the cabin, brewing coffee that filled the air with a smell it hadn't carried in years. When she handed Sarah a mug, the young woman accepted it with shaking hands. You have somewhere you need to be? Anna asked, her voice cautious. Sarah shook her head, strands of dark hair falling across her face. No, nowhere. The silence that followed was heavy, but Anna recognized it. She had lived inside that silence herself. Anna leaned against the counter, watching Sarah sip slowly. This place has more room than I need, she said quietly. You can stay a while. No strings. Sarah's eyes flicked up, surprise written there. Stay. As a guest or a friend if you want to call it that. Anna's voice was steady, but her chest tightened at her own words. Since the funeral she hadn't let anyone in. Now she was offering it without thinking. Sarah hesitated, then gave a small nod. "Just for a little while," she whispered. From that day forward the rhythm of the cabin changed. Sarah began with small things, folding the blanket she'd used, rinsing her mug without being asked. Within a week she was doing more. She swept the floors, wiped the counters, and reorganized the shelves as though it was second nature. She cooked simple meals: soup, bread, tea. The smell of food replaced the stale odor of beer and dust. Anna noticed even when she tried not to. Each evening she returned from chopping wood to find the cabin less like a tomb and more like a home. Yet distance remained. Sarah never shared details about her life and Anna never pressed. The dog Max cared nothing for boundaries. He wandered freely between them, his wagging tail softening the space. If Anna sat too long at the table, Max nudged her hand until she took him outside. If Sarah grew pale and withdrawn, Max climbed onto the sofa, pressing against her side. More than once Anna caught herself smiling at the sight. For the first time in years her chest felt something other than grief. One evening as Sarah stirred a pot of stew, Anna sat back in her chair. "You're good at this," she said. Sarah looked up. "Good at what?" "Making a place feel alive again." Sarah gave a faint smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "It's easier to keep busy." Anna nodded. She knew that truth too well. The silence stretched between them, but it wasn't hostile. It was fragile, carrying a weight they both understood. Days slipped into weeks. Sarah kept herself busy. Anna repaired fences, chopped wood, and quietly watched. They spoke in short exchanges, careful and polite. Beneath it all, though, an unspoken thread connected them. The neighbors began to notice. In a small town, no change stayed private for long. Mrs. Carter down the road told her sister-in-law, "Anna's not drinking alone anymore. There's a young woman at her cabin." Whispers spread. People began to look at Anna differently, not just with pity but curiosity. Back at the cabin, Anna noticed other changes. Once she caught Sarah humming while she worked, a soft tune almost forgotten. The sound startled Anna, reminding her of a time before grief hollowed her out. She didn't comment, but that night as she sat by the window she realized the air felt lighter. Yet shadows lingered. Sometimes Sarah stared out the window for long stretches, her eyes far away. Sometimes she startled when Anna entered the room. Anna wanted to ask what haunted her, but the words never came. One evening the fire crackled while rain pattered on the roof. Anna sat across from Sarah at the table, the remains of stew between them. She set down her spoon. "You ever lose something," Anna asked quietly, "that you know you'll never get back?" Sarah froze, her spoon hovering. For a long moment she didn't answer. Then she lowered it slowly, eyes fixed on Anna. "Yes," she whispered. "I have." Anna drew a breath. "My husband and little girl. 3 years ago. A drunk driver." Her jaw tightened. "They didn't make it. And the man who killed them walked free. Money bought him out." Sarah's eyes softened. Anna continued, her voice low and rough. "I quit the job. Quit believing in justice. Some nights I still think about ending it." Her eyes burned. A tear slipped free. She pressed a hand to her face, ashamed. Then she felt a light touch. Sarah had risen, her hand resting gently on Anna's shoulder. "You don't have to carry it alone," she said softly. Anna turned, her gaze catching Sarah's. In her eyes she saw recognition, grief meeting grief. For the first time in years, Anna's shoulders shook, the dam breaking. Silent tears poured, raw and unstoppable. Sarah stayed beside her, steady, not flinching, her hand an anchor against the storm. When the tears slowed, Anna sat slumped, exhausted. Sarah returned to her seat quietly, her expression unreadable. "You've lost someone too," Anna said. Sarah's eyes flickered down. "I've lost more than I can explain." Anna waited, but Sarah didn't go on. She only gave a faint, apologetic smile. "Let's just say I know what it's like to have the ground pulled out from under you." Anna wanted to ask, but she didn't. Some wounds revealed themselves in their own time. Days turned into another rhythm. Their conversations grew a little longer, their silences less sharp. Anna found herself listening for Sarah's footsteps in the cabin, for her humming in the kitchen. She caught Sarah watching her once as she split wood outside, her expression soft and wistful. Yet whenever closeness seemed to take root, Sarah pulled back. If Anna brushed her hand, Sarah flinched. If their talks lingered too long, Sarah excused herself. It was as if she stood on the edge of wanting connection but feared it too deeply. Late one night Sarah finally spoke. The fire snapped in the hearth, Max curled at her feet. She drew in a long breath. My family wasn't normal, she began quietly. We had money. My father owned a company in Allentown. He built it from nothing and wanted me to take over. My younger sister Laura hated me for it. She smiled in public but behind it, she burned with envy. Anna listened, not interrupting. Sarah's voice trembled. And then came Christopher. My husband. My father trusted him. I thought I loved him. Her eyes dropped to the fire. I was blind. I didn't see what he and Laura were planning. I overheard them one night. He was using her. Together they plotted to push me out, to take everything. On a hike in the Poconos, Laura made her move. She shoved me. The ground gave way. But she slipped instead. I tried to catch her. Sarah's voice cracked. I couldn't. She fell. When people found the body, they thought it was me. They buried me. They thought Laura survived. I didn't correct them. The firelight flickered across Sarah's face, lined with shadows. For 3 years I've lived under her name. Laura. Always hiding. Always running. My parents buried the wrong daughter. Christopher still walks free, richer than before. If he learns I'm alive, he'll finish what he started. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm alive, but I feel like a ghost. Carrying lies. Carrying guilt. Anna's breath caught. For a long time she said nothing, only watching the young woman before her. The weight of betrayal, fear and grief all etched into her. Finally Anna reached across the table, her hand steady. You're not a ghost. You're here. You survived. Sarah's tears slipped free, but she didn't pull away. Max pressed close, resting his head in her lap. The cabin, once a prison of silence, now held something else. 2 broken souls, bound by scars, daring to face the world again. For the first time in years, Anna Carter felt the stir of something she thought was lost forever. Not just survival. Hope. Thanks you for watching, and please remember to tell us where you are watching from today. Hit the like button, comment and subscribe to this channel for more of this.